Up here, we have a bunch of flower images, but which one's different? Easy, this one. But why? Was it the color, the texture, the setting? What made this flower different from the other ones? As humans, we're quite good at making connections with different things by nature, and we're also good at adapting to our environment. For a machine, it's not as simple, until now. A regular algorithm would be able to determine the difference of these images if you gave it the proper protocol. But if we were to have similar base images and they were all unique from each other, then we would have to rewrite the protocol once again. But why? The pictures look so similar. What's the problem with running it once again? Well, the reason why is a computer algorithm isn't very good at adapting. It's good at doing what it's told, but it really can't interpret further. This is what separates humans and machines. But recently, a new thing was introduced: deep learning neural networks. Deep learning is an artificial intelligence-based algorithm that makes connections and can adapt to the information you use. Now, when people think about artificial intelligence, the first thing they think about is Terminator or the annihilation of the human race. But it's obviously much more complex than that. Now, I'm not saying that that's not going to happen, but luckily for now, that's not the case, and they're under our control. How deep learning works is very similar to how a human brain does, by processing data for later use in decision-making with the newly acquired connections. These neural networks are able to interpret data that is both unstructured and unlabeled, allowing for it to actually learn from the data given. This ultimately allows for the computer to actually catch mistakes a human made, or even possibly find a more efficient way of doing something, allowing for humans and machines to work together. After coming off the statistical language R, having the ability to take a statistical approach with the detection of diseases, I knew I wanted to do something big with a positive impact on society and with people with kidney cancer. And I thought deep learning would be a step in the right direction. The idea I had was to use the programming platform known as TensorFlow and integrate deep learning neural networks in it to be able to distinguish the different stages of cancer using computer tomography images. And I thought the reason why this would be really helpful is because it would allow for generally the doctor to know exactly what stage the patient has, which would allow for proper treatment if necessary. And it would allow for no over and no under treatment of the patient. So why choose kidney cancer? Well, besides it being one of the most major cancers, the reason why I also chose it was in the R camp I did in 7th grade, our group learned about renal kidney cancer diagnosis, and I thought it would be a fair continuation. Basically, kidney cancer is a common type of cancer, but it can be also very deadly. Over 65,000 people were diagnosed with it, and over 14,000 people died from it in 2018 alone, which is really sad. Stage 1 is an important threshold for the decision of organ preservation for the lower stages, and chemotherapy and organ removal for the higher stages. The reason why this is so important is that a physician usually has trouble determining what stage the patient has, which ultimately leads to them possibly mistreating the patient, leading to further complications to the patient that is unneeded or undesired. So for this project, I used data from the National Cancer Institute, TCIA archive, and I was able to get kidney cancer images from the place with 227 patients in general. And I was able to get anonymized 3D computer tomography images and clinical data from those 227 patients as well. The data set was over 85 gigabytes, and I was able to obtain stages 1 to 4 from the patients. From this, I was also able to ultimately obtain a bunch of CT images, of course. The CT images that were basically picked were the ones that were most visible and enhanced. The reason why I picked those was because I knew that they would be the best for the processing of the neural network. And they were later used for the training and testing of the algorithm. Now, the process of actually cropping all the images took around 3 months in total. It's pretty crazy, but the reason why is I had to get the focus point of the CT scans. Now, the problem is that I couldn't just set up an automatic cropping algorithm due to the fact that the whole point of it was that when a patient is actually taking the scan, the position of the kidney changes, which could ultimately lead to the location of the kidney being in a different area. This in general creates the issue that I won't be able to get the picture of the kidney if I don't crop it correctly. Also, kidney sizes are different. Maybe this could be another deep learning project for another time. So, determining the cancer stage between the different sizes of the cancer, the different sizes of the kidney is very hard. The reason for this is because, in general, often sizes of cancers that are big are a larger stage, a higher stage, and cancers with the smaller size are a lower stage. Now, the reason why this is important is because it shows that there needs to be a further and higher level deep learning neural network algorithm that can do pattern recognition on the patterns of the kidney cancer images. Now, for the program, it was split into 3 sections: training, validation, and testing of the program to ensure a very accurate and also robust performance of the model. So for the project, I basically used this thing called Inception v3 neural network, deep learning algorithm, which basically is trained with over 1 million natural scene images, such as cats, dogs, mountains, etc., and of course, many flower images. But the problem with it is that it's not trained on kidney cancer. So I need to use this method called transfer learning. How transfer learning works is it takes the data that it learned from one problem, and then it applies it to a different problem, allowing for it to be actually trained on cancer stages. The reason why I could do this is that the information needed to understand the difference between cats and dogs is enough information to actually distinguish different objects, in this case, kidney cancer. So for the program, I made sure to include a validation set after the training set. The reason why is I wanted the program to be able to test itself twice, once on the validation set and once on the test set. The reason why is it ensures more accuracy, and also besides that, it allows for the test set to be independent, and this can allow for more unbiased and more reliable results in general. So for the program, I split it 40% training, 10% validation, and 50% testing. And I was able to get the best accuracy of the model, trained by 5,000 iterations at a learning rate of 0.01. I was able to actually understand the processing and see how accurate it was in processing the model. And for the area under the curve, I was able to get 96% for the test set, 88% for the validation set, and 87% for the test set. This is pretty good considering that the accuracy was 93% for the training set, 86% for the validation set, and 81% for the test set. Now, with the methods I used, I could basically understand I could basically use any other type of diseases, which doesn't strictly make it so that it has to be on specifically kidney cancer. And instead, it can be on any cancer that you want, which is pretty awesome if you think about it. Now, the beauty of TensorFlow is that it's a free software that anyone can use. And the reason why this is so great is because before programs like this were closed to the public, or basically it was very expensive to use. But since it's free now, anyone can make huge impacts on society from their own home, which is pretty inspiring, and that's a future I'd like to see. Now, with all the good, we fall into the black box problem. In the deep learning neural network, a person's able to see what's inputted and what's outputted, but no one really knows what happens in the middle. The reason for this is because a regular programming algorithm basically has a set structure and a set amount of rules. And the programmer set them, so he knows what's going on. But for a deep learning algorithm, it actually doesn't rely on rules established in advance, and instead relies on rules that it makes itself, which is pretty crazy. But this begins to question our human tendencies of wanting a lot of efficiency, but also wanting to know how something works. Now, it's a forbidden fruit type of situation. On one hand, we know this could be really efficient and save lives even. But on the other hand, we know this could also cause the ability to make us not able to know what the algorithm does, so we can't really understand how to detect the stages ourselves. So, which is better to have? That's for you to decide. And before I go, I'd like to thank Dr. Weiser for supervising this project. It was really helpful. Thank you.